Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 152nd Right and Left discussion forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. The emphasis is on the open-minded. Today, our panel will consider the possible impeachment of President Trump. Our founding fathers included in the Constitution the right of the House of Representatives to impeach the President and other officers. Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution reads, "The President, Vice President, and all other officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors." Incidentally, all other officers means those appointed by the President, including the Cabinet and some others. Our panel today, beginning on my left, is Joe Gaines of the faculty of the University of Akron. On his left is Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. On his left is Patty Haskins, member of the Wadsworth City Council. And on her left is Tom Finley, retired vice president of Human Resources Development, Rubbermaid Incorporated. Joe, only two presidents in 250 years have been impeached by the House of Representatives, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. Do you think that Donald Trump should be the third?
You know, I find this a very interesting question. Of all the questions we've touched upon, this is one of the most interesting to me because of my answer, for me anyhow.
Well, let's have it, Joe.
Well, no, I don't think he should be impeached. I know that's surprising because I do not like him. I do not want him to be president. I wish he was not president at this point. Any logical, legal way of getting, I don't want to say get rid of him, but of having him not as president, I would go for. I will even work against him with all legal duty to see that he's not reelected. However, I don't want to see a big political thing, and I think that's what will happen. It becomes very political. You know, 45 years ago today, Richard Nixon resigned. And he didn't want to resign, of course. And he resigned because Barry Goldwater went up to him and said, "It's time." He convinced him. And you won't have that here now. I mean, I don't think you have the Republicans telling Trump what they really feel that he should do or shouldn't do. I think he's in control, and he won't give it up.
We don't have a Barry Goldwater type anymore, do we?
No, we don't. And that's sad. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so upset with Trump. Not because of Barry Goldwater, but because of John McCain. What he said about John McCain to me was a rude, stupid, ignorant, childish behavior. And
other than that, it wasn't too bad.
No, other than that, it was okay. But I mean, what he was saying about John McCain was, I mean, he's talking about American heroes, an American hero. Now, I didn't even vote for John McCain, and I didn't agree with him politically, but I had a lot of respect for him. I still do. And I respect, you know, just because I disagree with somebody in the military doesn't mean that I disagree with them. I might disagree with the reasoning why the war is going on or why they're fighting or whatever. But McCain was a true American and should never have been spoken about like he was. I find that...
well, given all that, Joe, what's the negative part about Trump being impeached?
The politics. For one thing, can he appeal? If he was impeached, could he appeal? And he would.
It takes the Senate to, you know,
Right.
the House can impeach, but if you remember, Bill Clinton was impeached, but he was not removed from office.
Neither was
because
Johnson.
Right, because the Senate is the one that basically
Yes.
convicts and then sends him packing, and that's the issue here is that the last time we had this happen, and I just want to remind all my dear friends on the left that the House of Representatives was strongly Republican, and because of what they did, I believe, because of the impeachment process and the political circus that it was, we lost the House. Newt Gingrich and his contract with America, if you remember that.
It's true.
It was, you know, everything was smooth sailing, and you know, they went through this process. I remember it distinctly, watching it on TV. And the House did impeach Bill Clinton, but the Senate did not remove him from office, and it's political theater. We talked a little bit about that. I once again, I don't know if it's my turn or not, but I agree with Joe here, because you have to beat the people at the ballot box, no matter how how vehement you feel in your feelings. I'm not a supporter of the current president, but you have to beat him at the ballot box. And some of the things that are going on now, because we're into the politics of self-destruction, I couldn't have said it better about John McCain. The guy's a patriot. Anybody that spends 5 years as a prisoner of war, what they did to him, deserve better than that. And that's the petty nature that we're at right now with our politics.
I think what made him a hero is his refusal to be released.
Exactly. His father, he came from a long line of
he certainly could have been released.
He could have been.
Yeah.
He could have been. He could have gone before anybody else.
Him that.
Yeah, and he said, no, I'm going to stay here. And the rest of his life, he carried the scars of his imprisonment. And we've gone to the point where we're just out to destroy people, and that just has to stop. It has to stop all the way around. We cannot have that.
It's interesting to note, though, in the Clinton vote in the House where he was impeached, it was strictly party line. Now you would say, well, that's what modern politics is all about, but it was on the party line with Johnson too, in 1866 or whenever it was.
After Lincoln,
but it's always been politics.
Yeah.
But when we look at the word impeachment, I don't think we fully understand what it means.
Most people don't.
I hear it, I think they're talking about, well, we're going to get rid of the president. He's gone.
Yeah.
Well, it's never happened.
Right.
Well, that's not what it means. It just means you've been accused of something bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what has, we can say, I can say all I want to about President Trump, but what has he done that would deserve to be considered bad? To be considered to be, I agree with the...
We're going to talk about that in a minute. Patty?
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning. Originally, when all of this came up, I was opposed to it, mainly because, as has been stated, yes, the House could impeach the president. It would go to the Senate for the trial, and because of the division in the Senate, there is no way that he would be impeached. However, I've changed my mind on that.
No way he would be removed.
Convicted.
Yeah, okay.
Made guilty.
But you've changed your mind.
I've changed my mind because I think there is so much out there that the president has done wrong. If you look at the Mueller report and the 10 areas of obstruction that have been labeled and have been given to us as basically a roadmap, these are the things that the president has done or that his allies have done. There are so many investigations pertaining to him. He has tried to put up a roadblock against any type of investigation of him, whether it be not saying that his attorney, Don McCann, cannot testify, whether it being not releasing the financial documents that are constitutionally required to be released to different committees of the House upon request. I think that if Congress or the House were to start the impeachment process, that they would begin an investigation that I think we need. And the reason I think we need it is because otherwise we are normalizing the actions of this president and the things that he has done. And we're saying we're going to let it slide because we don't think we can convict him. But I think that it is more important to find out what went on, what's going on, whether it is enough to convict him or whether it says that he is not guilty of any of these things. I think it is important to get that information out into the public and we be aware of it. Again, otherwise we are normalizing this type of behavior and saying that the president, who has a bully pulpit, can now act as the bully from a pulpit and just demand or set up his own constitutional ways that he feels he should run a government. don't like saying this because I don't like to see us going down the road. I understand the dangers of it, as Bryan mentioned. That was one of the big fears originally. We're not going to do it because we might lose our seat the next time in Congress. But I think when we get to a point with the president who I feel has engaged in such shady activity, that it is important to at least begin the impeachment inquisition. I shouldn't use the word inquisition, but
Yeah, but you didn't. It's too late to take it
yeah,
back.
it's too late to take it back.
You already rang
But
that bell.
investigation, as to make sure that we understand what he's done and that he not be allowed to get away with these things.
Tom, you've been sitting patiently waiting to chime in on this topic.
Well, not so patiently,
Well,
but it's
okay,
all right.
but fire away.
I just wanted to take issue with Joe on just one thing. Other than that, I was right with you, and that is, I think we're already political, and it's not a fear of the impeachment causing that.
But why make it more?
Pardon?
Why make it more political?
What do we have to lose? The party is first now, not the country.
Shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be.
No.
And we are there. So
Have been for a
That's-
long time.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're there.
so it's time, past time. I took some highlights from the Week magazine, who published an article on the House pushes forward an impeachment question, and I just would share the summary of that. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating whether to recommend articles of impeachment. 114, nearly half of the House Democratic caucus, have come out in favor of impeachment.
It's actually more than a half now, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
This was a week ago.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. Polls, it didn't state which polls, but they use a group of polls for quite a while. Anyway, polls suggest only a minority of Americans support impeachment. House Speaker Pelosi has opposed. And the basis of that appears they'll lose the House.
Yes.
And again, pointing to the needs of the party come first, not the needs of the country. So personally, I think the behaviors of our president suggest to me impeachment is in order, for the very reasons I've stated. We need to get them focused on what their responsibilities are, and that is making the laws, tending the needs of the country first, not re-election and party. So that's,
I think that if we're going to have the impeachment process in Congress, which means that we're going to have the House Judiciary Committee debating, and then it's going to, then the entire House debates,
Right.
should be on television. It's not going to impact any votes. There are 197 Republicans, 235 Democrats, and that's what the vote will be. So I think the people need to understand what he's being charged with and what the evidence is. And it's going to have to be, but it will undoubtedly be a circus of some sort.
Yeah.
But personally, I think he should be impeached. I don't think he should be removed from office, but I think we need the process.
Right.
I think we need to have the people who are saying he is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors, or that I have evidence of his collusion with Russia. Prove it.
Exactly.
I mean, now it's not going to happen in the House, but if it comes up to a vote, they very definitely will vote on the articles of impeachment. But then it goes to the Senate, and now you've got the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court as the judge,
Right.
and you've got the president bringing in his own attorneys to argue the point. I think the nation needs to see that debate. It's very, very important. Right, we're at a point right now that if you hate Trump, you'll believe anything negative, and a lot of people do.
And if you like him, you believe
Absolutely.
everything he says.
Truth
One of the
be
concerns
damned.
I have is the election coming up. You know, we've got an election not that far away, and would that play into that election?
It could.
big time.
Oh, I
It
think
could.
so. I
But
think so, and
if
it should.
If he is innocent of all of these concerns, then maybe he should be reelected.
What do you think
If-
he's guilty of?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think there's a number of things. I think there was obstruction of justice as laid out in the 10.
And what was that?
Well, I think I mentioned in one of the other shows, there were things, for example, of trying to fire Mueller and the...
But that's not illegal for the president.
That is obstruction when he sends out his, whether it be Comey, whether it have been, was it McCann? It was told to make sure that this man gets fired.
But that's within the purview. That's not illegal for the president to fire an investigator.
No, it is not. But if it's for the purpose, when he is the one that is being investigated, and he knows,
Even so, it is
and
not a crime.
that is that can be labeled as obstruction of justice.
It can be, but
Well,
will
it
it be?
would if you're
Well,
a
it
Democrat.
could be,
Yeah.
yes. And if they can show that, and some of that was all laid out in the Mueller report, it did not exonerate him of obstruction
that's
of
true.
justice and under any stretch of the imagination. There are so
Because
many
they're not
other
allowed to
concerns.
exonerate.
There are so many other concerns as well. I mean, the money that was spent on the inauguration, I mean, that's in a court right now.
What about it?
Well, President Trump raised for his inauguration almost twice as much as anyone has ever raised before. If you looked at the inauguration and what was done, there's absolutely no accounting for the money, and there are a number of questions, and I believe that there is a case going in the New York, what is that, the Eastern District Court, concerning how that money was spent, and perhaps it was not directed towards that inauguration ceremony, which it should have been, but has rather been placed elsewhere. There's always the questions of the emoluments clause, and whether...
Can you explain that?
Well, the emoluments clause basically states that the president cannot benefit financially because of his situation as being president. And there have been numerous questions about that. Presidents in the past have divested themselves of all interest in their companies so as to not have any type of help or financially. President Trump has not done that in any way, shape, or form. You look at the amount of money that's gone into Mar-a-Lago because he insists upon having meetings there, but that is a facility that is owned by him, and that every time he goes there, he makes more and more money. As a matter of fact, I think they've increased. I saw where they had increased their membership fees by like double or triple what they were, because they can now, because the president owns it. He's benefiting from that. His hotel in downtown Washington, D.C., where various dignitaries are sent to live, but every time they go there and stay there, Trump is making money from that.
I guess I'm looking at it from the long game. The calculus on this is all wrong. I think you have to beat him at the ballot box. You go through an impeachment process. It makes the country feel good. He gets reelected because it galvanizes his base, and all these things. Even if I would agree or disagree with some of the things that have been thrown out here, the fact of the matter is, it gets lost in everything.
But
no
again,
one's gonna, you can point your finger and say, your hotel here, you're this, that, or the other, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you go through this process, and it leaves a very bad taste in the mouth of a lot of people in the country. And we're gonna have 4 more years.
And it's okay to continue to do these things.
And you could, stand on the corner, and I'll be right there with you, shouting and all that kind of stuff. But the long game, and this is where Nancy Pelosi understands the long game. I mean, she's a very smart, shrewd politician, and she knows that if she lets the floodgates open, and they start doing this, these are just campaign advertisements that they're just waiting to make. Wow. And I just think, don't give them that opportunity. Look at it from a little, step
He's
back.
a good
here.
campaigner. He knows how to campaign.
He is. He knows how to campaign, and they're just looking for content.
I think we've missed something here. I said it's time for Congress to do this because of the behaviors of the president. I'm not talking about whether he's guilty of dishonesty or whatever that.
Right.
He has used the powers of the office to personally attack citizens of the United States. What more do you need in the way of behaviors to suggest
Agreed.
we're moving to an anarchy, a dictator? That's all the behaviors that,
You're talking about his tweets.
yeah, of tweets and his slurs, and it's
Well-
terrible.
And ignoring it is a tacit.
So forget about whether
Approval
he's
of it.
guilty of.
But he won't be
To me,
impeached
it's-
unless he's guilty of.
But you're talking about impeaching him because he's obnoxious.
I'm talking about behavior of a president of the United States.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I don't think impeachment is what's going to do it.
What is?
Voting against him, getting
Hey,
him out of office.
right now, he would be voted re-elected.
I'm afraid you're right.
He's going
So
to be anyway.
what do we got to lose?
You you lose the only thing that keeps, you lose the House.
Well, now you're into the parties first
Yeah.
and the president or the
Yeah.
country second, and that's
the
my
thing-
main
yeah,
premises.
it's where we're at.
It's where we're at,
It's
and
where
it's
we're at
wrong.
right now, and whether it's right or wrong, that's the cards we're dealt with. And if you want to lose the House, have at it. You know,
Personally,
do
I
it.
don't care. They haven't done anything. Our Congress has been neutralized
Yeah.
for many years. Now it's just coming.
For party
Why do we
purposes.
care
Yeah,
so
for
much?
party purposes.
Why
So
do we care so much if the president made a lot of money
I don't
while he
care.
was in office? All presidents do.
I don't. I
Obama
care
made a
about
ton.
behaviors that
Still
are.
making it.
Yeah.
It's, well, part
He
of it is
represents
illegal.
this country in other countries, and
And if he is making policies with foreign governments so as to, that are not in the best interest of this country, but rather in the best interests of his pocketbook,
That should be
then
brought
I
out.
think
Right.
we need to be
Yeah.
concerned.
And if it's not true, then the people
Bring
who
it out.
accused
I
of
mean,
it should
I
be.
mean, this is why, the Moscow Trump Hotel that's why that was kept secret for so long and it was denied, was because it doesn't look very good if, you're bragging about how wonderful Putin is and what a good friend he is, and at the same time you are trying to negotiate the building of a large hotel in that country. So,
What was that? The Briar Patch. What was that? It's a. I can't remember the story. It's the rabbit saying to the
rabbit.
Briar Rabbit.
Briar Rabbit,
yeah,
"Come on, jump into the Briar Patch. Come on and get me." I think that's
It was his home.
throw me into the
That's
Briar
exactly what we're dealing with here. I mean,
And Uncle Remus said, sooner or later, old Brer Rabbit, he gonna get where he wanna be.
exactly. I'm sorry. I hear you. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I understand.
and I was with you originally, Brian. I've just gotten
yeah,
to my,
Yeah. I mean, I'm
I've
just
gotten to
looking
my
at the.
breaking point.
I think that we need to have an open hearing in the Senate
Right,
to say who's lying and who isn't.
right.
If we, I can't think of a better forum for us to get close to the truth. We're never going to get the full truth.
But we need leadership in the Senate and that would say what we're saying right now. They're not attacking, and they should be.
We don't have leadership anywhere.
No.
We don't have leadership anywhere that we can trust or count upon.
Well, I think
Whether
you're
you look
right.
at the Senate, whether the parties are having a terrible time with leadership. And we're just in chaos from that standpoint. We've moved away from the Constitution, which is very clear. Congress does business by consensus. They haven't done that in years, and nothing is coming out. So it's time. I agree with the television, if nothing more, to educate the American people on
what's going
process, due process.
One of the questions I'm concerned about is the politics of John Roberts. We accused him during the confirmation hearings that he was in the pocket of the president,
His confirmation hearings.
his confirmation hearings. And then the first thing he, not know if it's the first thing or not, but very, very early on in his term as Chief Justice, he voted against something that would have
Obamacare.
destroyed Obamacare.
Right.
And that was, and I still don't understand that.
He's become the swing vote. basically.
Yeah. So what do you think he would? What do you think his behavior would be as the judge over the hearing in the Senate?
I've grown to respect him. I don't agree with all of his decisions, but I have grown to respect him. I think he would do it or run that in the manner that is befitting a Supreme Justice of the United States.
I think he'd be between a rock and a hard place if it were publicized via TV in the United States.
He would have to be so neutral. He really would.
It would be so glaring that exposure would be.
I'm not sure I agree with televising some of this because most people really don't understand how the law works.
How are they going to understand unless we start showing them?
Well, it's not just showing them; they can listen to it.
Yeah, well,
they can read about it. The problem is that we don't know enough collectively about how these things work, and someone watching it, they're thinking, well, the guy's in the pocket for him, and there are so many. I mean, this is serious business.
Right.
It's very serious, and I have no doubt that a justice of the Supreme Court or a judge would take it that way and act that way and do the right thing.
Well, it could educate the public, which is very, very ignorant, half of whom think Ben Franklin was a president. Thank you very much, folks.
The first president, right?
Yeah.